got to unite. Come on, people, say we've got to unite. Brother and sister, say we've got to unite. Why can't we unite? Lord, I wanna know now. Why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, can't we unite? Lord, why can't we unite? Why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, can't we unite? Lord, united we stand, so divided we fall. We must unite, topple these walls, Lord. 400 years, divided too long. We must unite, if we must be strong. Whoa, 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 whoa. Every time I look around, I see my people suffer, Lord. Every time I look around, I seem to feel the pain. Why can't we unite? Why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, can't we unite? Lord, why can't we unite? Black and white. Why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, can't we unite? We've got to unite. We've got to unite. Come on, people, say we've got to unite. Get yourself together, say we've got to unite. So why? Fire! Lord, yeah. I'm Mrs. Brown, Mrs. Brown, Mrs. Brown, Mrs. Oh, Lord. I'm Mrs. Brown, wanna hold I down. Yeah, no, no, no. I'm Mrs. Brown, you're too wicked. Hey, hey, hey. I'm Mrs. Brown, you can't hold I down. Lord, under attack from friend and foe. From Mrs. Brown and Co. Under attack, Lord, we're firing from a both side track. Mama, under attack from Heckle and a Jekyll. Them have a bigger time plot. Under attack, Lord, we're firing from a both side track. Lord, yeah. I wanna make two. I do want to make four. I couldn't take the years that they were giving, so I walked right out their door. Now Mrs. Brown, them a frown. I call that goose is gone. She planned a cigarette.
All right, it's about that time again. It's just about 5 minutes past the good old hour of 6 o'clock here in Dominica and the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. And let me say a special greetings and welcome to all of you locked into that space at this time. That is a Civic Vibe space. That is where we always have a conversation about country each and every Sunday from about 6 o'clock. This afternoon's program going to be a very interesting one, very informative and educational as well. So I ask you right about now, folks, if you have to be a little more comfortable, please do that at this time as we're about to kick off into a very interesting conversation here. We have a special invited guest here this afternoon, no stranger to us in Dominica, by the way. In just a while, we'll open up his mic so that he can say hi and hello to all of you out there in that space. That is the Civic Vibe space. Remember, folks, the numbers to call into the program later, if needs be, that is, they are 245-2396. Again, I repeat, 245-2396 or 615-9470. These are the two numbers to get your contribution in to the program based on what you have heard here this evening. Without further ado, folks, let me move across and say a hi and hello. Hearty welcome to our brother Alvin Thomas, who is always there each and every Sunday as co of this program. Alvin, greetings, my brother.
Hey, Lofty. Yes, Lofty. Good afternoon, my brother. Good afternoon. I don't need to ask how you're doing. I see it in your attire. Your attire speaks for itself.
Well,
I may have to go and put my sunglasses on because Coyote,
that's my mood this afternoon. Feeling very, very
good,
upbeat.
good. But yes, good afternoon, Lofty. Good to be back again another Sunday afternoon. To have a conversation with the people. I always call it a conversation. We're not here to lecture. We're not here just to provide information, but to have a conversation with the hope that we can change hearts and minds. This is what it's all about. To change hearts and minds, to have a conversion. That's what Dominica needs. Dominica needs a conversion now. So I'm very happy to be in the company of my good friend, Brother Corbett. We haven't seen each other for quite a while, man, you know. I'm so happy to see him. So I'm looking forward to it. To those of us who have logged in already, I see quite a few of them are coming in. I just want to quickly say happy birthday, happy anniversaries to all our folks who are on, and anyone experiencing any loss, we just want to extend our sympathies as well. But stay strong, stay in faith, and we'll get the work done.
Yes, indeed. Alvin, thank you very much, my brother, for your opening remarks here, touching some very, very pertinent points here as we're getting the conversation set. Folks, we recognize a number of you already on the live feed. First, what we ask of you now, please share the live feed as we are moving on here this evening, all right? Let me know, I have the special opportunity here to introduce into your hearing and to your sight this evening, a brother, as I said, no stranger to us, held a number of positions in Dominica, esteemed position that is in Dominica. And so without further ado, let me say greetings and welcome to Brother Julius Corbett. Greetings, brother. How is it?
Thank you very much, Lofty. I'm well. I'm doing very well. As I've been said, you look very, very bright. Something's happening. I see a lot of effervescence coming from your face. It's very glowing. Things must be moving really smoothly for you down there. Thank you for having me here. Alvin, I have not seen you for a very long time, but I've been listening to you. And people like yourselves, what's leading Dominica is always there, helping to educate. I like the word educate. You're not out there to direct anybody. You educate, let them know what is right and what is wrong. Lofty, thanks for inviting me here. I'm coming not as an expert, but purely as a Dominican who's been living overseas, but my heart is in Dominica. I was telling a friend of mine a few days ago that the only time I'm really truly happy is when I'm in Dominica. Some things happen down there. It just creates a lot of energy for me. And so when I hear things happening in Dominica that displeases me or creates some concern for me, I'm always anxious to drop a note either on the Facebook page or I write something somewhere and people respond. Some very supportive, some not so supportive. But I believe that, like Alvin just said, it brings a group of persons like you, myself, and a number of other guys out there who ought to come at a time when Dominica, and frankly, from what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, Dominica needs everybody on board right now. And it's not just saying that. People have to be willing to make the sacrifices of being in Dominica, and I'm planning to do so very shortly, to make sure that we continue to create some assistance to Dominica's growth and development. So tonight I'm going to be here. I'm answering some questions if I can. If I can't, I'll allude it to my friend, the doctor here, who knows virtually as much as anybody else in Dominica. So thanks again, and good luck with the program.
Yes, indeed. All right, folks, for those of you, Brother Corbett, thank you very much. Again, thank you for taking up our invite here as being our guest tonight to speak to the Dominican public, have a conversation with us in Dominica, as it was. So yes, we welcome that and cherish your presence here this evening. That is Brother Julius Corbett.
Thank you.
Folks, those of you on the live feed with us, we'll touch some of your names in just a while before we get into the meat of things, as it were. But let me just give you guys an idea of just where the conversation is to go tonight, as it were, in terms of the latest we heard in Dominica is that the government through Parliament Friday gone basically got approved in Parliament the sum of 40 something million, $40 million, yes, to go towards some rehabilitation project in Roseau that has been touted about for many years. And so yes, 40 plus million US, let me qualify that, US, yes. Yes. So that will form the meat of the conversation tonight, and obviously other topics that are hinging, especially in financial matters in Dominica. These conversations will be part of the main conversation as well. All right, so please be in tune for that. You can form your questions in your mind already so that you can call in later into the program. The numbers to call, I repeat, they are 245-2396 or 615-9470. These two numbers will be dropped in the live feed, so you can please take a note. So if you want to interact with Brother Corbett here tonight, then your call will be taken and you can share with us here. All right, Alvin, let us just run through the viewing audience here very quickly as we are about to take steam in just a while. All right.
Certainly. Well, of course, we have our good friend Mali Austri, always there. Good evening, Mali. Says good evening to everyone. We have Rosa Robinson. We have Sherilyn Washington, Victor James, Owen Prosper, Dory Drygo. Yes, good evening, Brother Lofty, Dura, Alvin Thomas, and our patriarch Dominican locked in from North Carolina. We also have Juanita Prince, Fernis Vaj, Mavella Defoe, Jeffrey Bisbin is there, Anetha Adams, Brima Francis. Who else do you see, Lofty?
We also have here, I'm seeing here, Simeon George, Dorian Dorival, Anitha Adams, Bernard, Marina Charles, Ina, Scotland. You mentioned Mali Austri, John Joseph is there, John Alfred as well, Augustina John, Mary Lorio, good evening to you, Christian Volney, Alex Powell Bruno, good evening to you, my brother, in a very special way, Lauren Lestrade, Augustina John, Al Charles, my brother Vieko Webster, good evening to you, sir. Niski Alfred, Althea Rennie, good evening to you and you folks over there in Tutola. Petra Carbon George over there in St. Croix as well, good evening to you. Karen Joseph, Conrad Coffey, Ivenia Joseph, Carol Olivachi Bruni, Al Charles. We also have Caroline Campbellin, yes, Ramona St. Rose as well. Rosie Nice, Francisca Deluge, Adelaide Paul, who else? Felix, Elwa, Claudia, Carlton, Darius, brother Darius Lequent. Legal Mind is in here with us tonight as well.
We have Carla Guy, Jean Francois, Earl Francis, is it Iris Sue? Who else do we have?
Eliza Louis Gomes, Cyrus Raphael, brother Joshua Francis, Angela Paul, Joanne Green, Gertrude Abraham Dejean, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah, a pretty full house. Pretty full house.
You got a pretty full house here.
Yes, indeed. So, gentlemen, let's get things cracking here, as it were. Brother Corbett, as I said, you are no stranger to us in Dominica, but you know, for those who may be tuning in this space at this time and who may have never seen you, don't know who is Brother Corbett, just a brief introduction would do, sir.
Well, thank you very much.
I know.
Love to hear that. Of course, I'm Dominican. I was born in Atkinson many years ago, and I went to the United States to study. I went back to Dominica, the manager of the general of the aid bank, my latest position. And prior to that, I was also the general manager of the National Bank in Dominica. So I believe that I have the fortunate person to be able to hold two key positions in banking in Dominica. So while I was there, I helped quite a bit of people to develop and grow. And that is what I am excited about. So right now, I am a financial advisor, retirement, pre-retirement mode. and taking things really easy. A few months ago, I decided I was going to do something new. I became an unabashed Christian. So I am also in that area, spreading the word of God, globalizing God's name wherever I can. But my big focus really is in Dominica. I'm hoping that whatever I have to say tonight is going to be done constructively. I'm not going to be there to criticize or to say anything against the government or whatnot. I'm just going to say, well, based on what I've seen, what I've noticed over the years, it seems to me that we are on a trajectory right now that we ought to take a step back and have a look at it and say, are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going from here? Are we going in the right directions? And if so, what we need to change so as to make Dominica a better place? And as I said, it's a lovely place to be. The happiest people in the world, and we want to maintain that stature.
Yeah, cool. Brother Corbett, thank you very much for your opening remarks here. At least persons who may not have known you, sort of heating up to you a bit better now. I took notes, sir, that you said that you held two prestigious positions in Dominica as managers of two banks.
Yes, I did.
The Aid Bank, National Bank. How would you describe the economy back then in those days when you held these two positions?
Well, in the first one was National Bank, and way back in 1998. I think at that time the government was the United Workers' Party, and I think the visionaries there, Julius Timothy and Edison James, they were creating a lot of economic activity. For example, agriculture was booming down there at that time. Tourism was booming. People very happy. Sports, so everything. And Dominica was just on the going on. It was great to be in Dominica. Everybody, a lot of small businesses grew exponentially. Access to credit was not that difficult. A number of things insofar as what ought to be done for the country's growth and development. Today, I'm hearing differently. I'm hearing that people are not able to do anything. The government is providing quite a bit of assistance in terms of home ownership, but without that, people can't buy their own homes, and people are unable to buy things in stores, and cost of living has gone up, wages have gone down. And by and large, people, from what I'm hearing, I'm not on ground, that people are just saying every day, well, they're fed up, things are happening. But yet the country seemed to put forward a position where people seem to be very happy. So there's a dichotomy taking place when you're hearing one day people are not happy with the economy, on the other hand, they're very happy to see things. So it's a confusion that's taking place in Dominica right now, from what I can see, what I can hear. And people like yourself living on island would know better than I do, but I can only go by what I'm hearing. And the word I'm hearing is that things are just mad. People are not happy, income are not growing, savings are not growing, and the economy is very flat right now. And there are few people who are making it happen down there, and the rest are just dragging along.
Just before Brother Thomas comes in, so just to sort of continue on that point that you established in terms of the economy back then and now. Yeah. What are some of the indicators, Brother Corbett, that would indicate to the population by and large as to how the economy is doing?
Well, first of all, you want to look at the flight of the flight. People are leaving the country. A lot of people are looking for greener pastures. That's one thing. If things are happening, that is very exciting. The economy is doing well. People ought to want to stay. But most people, from what I'm hearing, again, I'm not on the island, are anxious to look at greener pastures. Yeah. From what then, there was a growth in agriculture, for example. Farmers, I remember the days the farmers used to buy trucks, vehicles, equipment with pure cash. Now I understand it's very difficult to get any access to credit. That can, if you don't have access to credit in any community, that's going to cause a lot of problems. So that's one thing. We have a few banks. I mean, right now, when I was down there at that time, there were 3 or 4 banks 5 banks? No, I understand there are about 1 or 2 banks open on the island right now. And those banks are they're regulated and they can do thus far. So the capacity for people to carry debt, you can't borrow more if you don't have income. And that's one of the things that I see is happening in Dominica right now, that the income growth is not there. And economic activities are not being created. I'm not seeing any new industries growing in Dominica. The tourism industry is supposed to be doing well. But then I'm hearing a lot of hoteliers that saying, well, things are bad. And so how can you be relying on the tourist industry that's supposed to be good? They're complaining that things are not right. You do not have any manufacturing happening. You know, exports, for example. What are we exporting in Dominica today? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not hearing that I'm not seeing anything that's leaving the country and so made in Dominica. So by and large, we are just marking time as in the Dominican Palace. We're just marking time and hoping for the best. And why is this? I have no idea. I don't live on the island, but I do believe that our leaders ought to be looking at areas they can find to use the resources that are available to them. What they're doing, I'm not sure.
Wow. Thank you, brother. So far, so good. Alvin, I yield to you now in terms of the continuing on here.
All right, Brother Lofty. Thank you very much. Again, let me just add and say, again, a pleasant good afternoon to my friend, Brother Corbett. Brother Corbett has put this thing so well in context in terms of where we were and where we are now. And if you put it this way, if you are financially sound as an individual, like he said, you're working, you're getting an income, or you run a business and you have revenue out of that business, your business is doing well, there may not be need for loans, okay? Yeah, you may borrow a little something just to for maybe tax purposes, but generally you're not going to put yourself in debt. The same thing, like he said, the farmers then were doing well, and they would walk into the banks and withdraw their cash and buy their vehicles for cash. There was no need for loans. Farmers were not under loans. Farmers were able to contribute and put the inputs into their production. They were able to send their children to school. And not only that, Lofty, they were able to use their security or their certificate of title as security if they had to take a loan, maybe to send their child to school or to do something. We have the reverse now. You have farmers now unable to borrow one. They don't have an income earning capacity. So they are just there hoping by the grace of God that something will happen. And what is more, their lands have been taken away from them. So they can't leave a legacy for their next generation, for their children. When this E.O. Leblanc, our godfather of politics, if one might say, one of the first things E.O. Leblanc did was to pass and make sure he put in place what was called an Alien Land Holding Act. And the purpose of that was to ensure that Dominicans' land stay in the hands of Dominicans. So having gotten away from Europe and that colonization, that we had something to fall back on. And you had big estate holders, but you also had small farmers throughout the country who had 10 acres or 12 acres or whatever the case might be. And on the basis of that, they would farm their land. And as I said, earn an income to send their kids to school, to meet their day-to-day, build their homes. Today, we don't have that. There is no money in the system. But what is more lofty, do you know, and I don't know how many Dominicans know that, but do you know that that proposed so-called airport that they're talking about, where the land was taken in our most productive area of the country, because 70% of Dominica is covered in forest. The other 30% is arable land. Land you can cultivate and plant. 441 acres of land was taken in that area. And as a result of that, 47 farmlands were displaced. 47 farmlands. So we displaced 47 farmers in that area. That information is right under the Ministry of Finance. Go there, you'll find it. I'm not telling you anything out of, any fairy tale. 47 farmlands were displaced. Just figure out the impact and the multiplying effect that 47 farmlands would have in that area. And once displaced, what is the loss to the economy? I have a document that I was prepared by the OECS on Dominica, talking about a number of other things. Dominica's economy is heavily dependent on agriculture. The agricultural sector is the main determinant of economic growth and the main source of food and income for most of the population. In this regard, for the period 1992 to 1999, and that was the period during part of it, the Freedom Party, and part of it, the United Workers' Party. Agriculture accounted for an average of 25% of GDP, 70% of the total export earning, and 60% of foreign exchange. Moreover, it supplied 60% of the food requirement of the population and employed 30% of the labor force. Central Statistics Office, 1999. Correlate that to what we have today. I have a document there, and it was prepared. I'll end on that one. Let me just. It was prepared just last year by the UNDP in collaboration with the government of Dominica, and it was called a diagnostic report of the Dominica private sector. That was done in August of last year. And there were two documents. There was one done for the private sector, and there was one done separately to look at tourism. And on page 19 of that report, it gives you selected sectors' average contribution to GDP between 2017 and 2021. And for agriculture, livestock, and forestry, 10.68%. That was in that's the average. That's the average. In 2021, it was 13.31%. You know what I'm saying? Contrast that to what I read earlier. Tourism, which is where they said they're going. So the breakdown they have as a contributor towards GDP, you have wholesale and retail trade. So that is now the Chinese are taking over with that wholesale and retail trade, as we see. You have transport, storage, and communication. You have public administration, defense, and compulsory social security. You have what is called financial intermediation. Then you have the agriculture that I just referenced. And then you have real estate, renting, and business activities. You have construction. You have manufacturing. And then you have hotel and restaurant. So tourism would fall under hotel and restaurant. You know what was that average? And you're looking at from 2017 to 2021, 1.11% of GDP. 1.11. In 2017, it was 1.66. In 2018, it was 1.32. In 2019, it was 1.43. In 2020, it was 0.63. And in 2021, it was 0.51. Manufacturing was a mere 2.48 average. Now, these are the three major sectors: agriculture, manufacturing, tourism. Combined, they were not even 25% of GDP. So you see what we're in? Now, as the conversation developed, we will look into that debt situation that we were in, which we are getting ourselves more into debt. Because we're now sitting at about $1.6 billion in debt, and we just added another 100 and something million from the Saudis. And that is something I will speak to in a while. Because when you go to a bank to get a loan, the bank don't give you the loan because they like your face or you're smelling good or they like your shirt. The bank will do a number of things. The bank will look at first your capacity to pay back, give them back their money. Okay? The bank in America here, and I guess the same kind of hole in Dominica, you look at your debt to income ratio. How much debt you carry as against how much income you have. The same apply for a business. Okay? Debt to income ratio. But in addition to that, if the bank sees, well, boy, this man has a lot of debt, but however, he has 100 acres of land sitting somewhere. The bank might take a chance and say, well, yeah, your debt is high, but you have some serious tangible security. I'll give you the money. Because you know what? They will get their security back in terms of taking the land. Okay? They'll take the land, they'll get their monies back. You see what happened in America with foreclosures. A lot of people got mortgages. They were not qualified for the mortgages back in 2008. They couldn't pay. The bank take back their house. They lost their house. Okay? So similarly with the government, which is high risk in debt, if they walk into the Saudis for 28 years to get money and they cannot pay, then we need to know what the Saudis are coming to take from us. And that is left for a conversation as we develop. But that's my way of my opening comments. I don't want to say so much, but I just want to put this thing into some context. So the listeners out there and the average man on the street could relate it to their situations. That's why I like to give those examples.
All right. Thank you very much, Alvin, for your full length opening remarks, I must say. We are, for those of you who are there on the live feed at this time and may have missed it in terms of the topic under scrutiny tonight. Basically, we are discussing where Dominica's economy is by and large. Of late, we heard the government of Dominica borrowed, they said, or is in the process of borrowing 40-something plus million US dollars, that is, to renovate, to rehabilitate, whatever it is, to make anew. They say that is the city of Dominica, Roseau Central. And so we are discussing with Brother Corbett tonight, he being a financier, as it were, a money guru, a financial guru. Just how is a country like Dominica able to sustain that debt and other debts when our economy is in a very sluggish mode? So, Brother Corbett, what do you have to say? Your take on that scenario in Dominica, sir?
Well, taking on debt is not a bad thing. A lot of people don't. Debt is not all that bad. That can be bad when the economy is a bad debt. When that means what are you doing with the funds that you borrow? From what I can see or what I heard is that the country is right now is over close to $1 billion in debt, with a ratio of GDP is close to 104, 105 or thereabout. In 1906, in 2000, under the United Workers' Party, I think the debt ratio was about 64, and at that time the United Party was being criticized for taking on too much debt or bad debt, but now it's almost doubled, and nobody seems to talk about that. When you take on a debt, there are two things you have to ask. So the first thing you ask is, what is causing the need for borrowing? What is the borrowing cause? And two, what are the sources of repayment? So if you're going to raise $41 million for a project, one would assume that we would know exactly how that amount of money was developed, what plans was placed before the cabinet in detail, and what is the source of repayment. From what I can see, I understand from the Roseau project. Now, if I may recall, if my memory serves me, but some time ago, there was a project called the Roseau Rehabilitation Project before. And I believe it was being funded at that time by the curators, I believe. And when I was talking
yes,
to
you are spot on that, spot on. Yes.
So, but I understand, I'm listening to the Minister of Housing, again, using the COVID, money being redeployed for COVID. Now, you and I know very truthfully that a number of Dominicans who are arguing, well, where is the COVID stimulus that we should be getting? No stimulus went through. Although the government at that time were receiving millions of dollars for COVID, so somehow there is a confusion between what the minister is saying and what the prime minister said, that they're borrowing, and what she said, well, we got some advances being made. So are these advances made as grants? So I'm not really sure. There's a confusion that is taking place right now. What is it? Is it a grant that we're going to have? Or is that the Saudis? But beyond that, the question is that if you have a situation in Dominica right now where the income per capita, which is about is about $9,000, $9,600. Most of the inhabitants, 9,000 people are responsible for. Can you imagine taking additional debt? And you have a debt that goes on for 28 years at 2.5%. So it seems to me when the economy is not generating enough income, which is, I believe, is what they use to service the debt, then you have to start thinking of, is that a priority debt to be taken on the books right now? And that is what I am not sure, whether it was brought to prior to going to seek the resolution. Was there a discussion in the House? Was it tabled or brought before Parliament and said, this is what we want to do? But the government just comes out and slaps it before the Parliament. And there's a weak opposition, obviously. So is it going to go through? So there are $41 million United States currency, $111 million of EC dollars going on the country's book at a time when the country really is not generating sufficient income to service the debt. So what are the Saudis are going to be looking for debt repayment if the country does not come through? What are they looking for? Or is it really a grant? Because the impression I got from listening to the comments coming out from the House of Ministers is that when they came and prayers helped us, and prayer helped us. We got things for prayers. It seems to me, and divine providence came in and said, here's $2 million, and we're going to give you 41 million. Here's $2 million. Here's the first tranche. I don't know. So that's what has to be clarified. What is it that the Saudis granted a couple of weeks ago, or what are the plans? Is the Saudi kingdom really going to take on the project? What project? I understand the prime minister said us for ferry, bowling alley, all types of projects. Are these projects income generation? Are these projects going to raise enough funds to create economic activity? Because the big thing that's required in Dominica right now, from what I can see, is creating economic activity so that the people are able, as I alluded to a minute ago, to be able to buy things and don't have to be relying on the government for housing, don't have to be relying on the government to pay for the electricity, don't have to be relying on the government to pay for the children to go to school. In other words, what we have seemed to be created in Dominica is a system of dependency, right? And that has to be discontinued. And if we can keep on taking more debt without a clear income stream to service that debt, there's going to be a problem for the country going down the road. That is one of my observations.
Yes, indeed. Folks, let me just Brother Corbett pointed to it in terms of his discussions earlier. But just for the sake of those of you listening that may not have heard, in Parliament, where the housing minister, that is the wife of Roosevelt Skerritt, spoke about the Saudis coming to Dominica, and she met them, and they basically, as a benefactor, wanted to take up that project. That was in what, August, July of this year?
Yep.
And couple months just passed. At the National Day, message of Roosevelt Skerritt basically came and overturned or overhauled what Melissa said about 2 or 3 months prior. So let me just let you guys hear it, because there's a level of contradiction that is in there. And that is why we want to break it down to you guys so that you could better understand in terms of how our country is being managed at this time. Take a listen to Melissa and then Roosevelt Skerritt.
Because I have fought hard to bring this project to life since I became a power rep in 2019, Mr. Speaker. And every time I make one step forward, it seems like I go right back to square one. We faced so many hiccups, challenges. The finances had to be rerouted to COVID-19 management, Mr. Speaker. It came to a point where I got so fed up one morning, I printed the plans for this project. I called 2 pastors, I invited them to cabinet, and I asked my cabinet to join me in prayer. We held hands, and they said, today we are performing deliverance on this project, Mr. Speaker. And we prayed. That was 3 months ago. 3 months ago, Mr. Speaker. But mark my words, today is the power of prayer. We underestimate the power of prayer. Mark my words when I say that you will never hear me saying again that the Rosa Enhancement Project is coming. Because it finished come. It has arrived. It is here, Mr. Speaker. A benefactor popped up from another country, Mr. Speaker, that we didn't really have relations with. And so I am pleased to announce that the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will be taking over this project, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they have committed to $2 million US, about 5.5 million EC, Mr. Speaker. And I met with the officials from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They performed a site visit in Roseau. They have agreed to fund this as a first project. There's more to come, and we are well on our way to making this a reality.
All right, folks, you just listened to the voice of Melissa Popon-Skerrit delivering that speech at the, well, not the last, the one before the last parliamentary budget session, whereby she said the Saudis came to Dominica, she met with them, and they were deciding to pump $5 million EC dollars in that project in Roseau to make it come to fruition. So from 5 million EC, she said, and Roosevelt Skerrit, now her husband, overturned, somersault everything on its head. And about 2-3 months after is telling us something totally opposite.
My dear citizens, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to report to you that we shall go to Parliament on November 10, 2023, to seek approval for a loan from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to implement the Roseau Enhancement Project. The construction of an entertainment complex, which will include attractions for families, such as a bowling alley, built-for-purpose theater, a recording studio for our artists, and a new ferry terminal for Dominica.
All right, Brother Corbett, you hinted to it. We played it. Your take in terms of further comments, sir.
What can I say? Is this complete confusion and contradiction taking place right now. Prime Minister is going out there to borrow money to do some things totally different from what the Minister of Housing is saying. And they're all supposed to be talking in the same language. So the people of Dominica must ask the question, who is talking the truth? And why are we not being told the truth? Why are you saying one thing and your minister is saying differently? And that's what I'm saying. So we have to clear that misclassification right here. And the Minister of Finance, who is responsible for economic development and planning, ought to come out and make a statement saying that, is that really the fact? Are we borrowing $41 million from the Saudi Kingdom? What has caused the need for borrowing? What are the sources of repayment? Rather than going to the parliament, where he knew he's going to be a fait accompli anyhow, and seek resolution on something that was not brought before Parliament to discussion before. I thought the role would be to bring the argument, bring it before Parliament argues on it, and then they take to a vote, and then they vote on it. That's why I believe in modern democracy, things work. But one minister is saying one thing, the other minister is saying, and the person, the key player in that whole thing, the Minister of Finance hasn't said anything about it. It is so confusing. Who is creating the debt for the country? Who is responsible? Is it the Minister of Housing? Is it the Prime Minister? Is it the Minister of Finance? Is it Parliament? I believe Parliament has to give approval. I remember when I was at the National Bank or Aid Bank, if I have to go to take a loan, I take to the board, and the board has to give approval before I go out and borrow. There must be checks and balances. And where are these checks and balances? And this is what is very, very disturbing. On National Day, the Prime Minister says they're going to borrow $41 million for the purpose of a studio, a theater. It has nothing to, he said nothing about the Rosary Barrier program. Nothing. Then the Minister of Housing says, well, for the prayers, we went, and pastors came, we prayed, and they all prayed, and we all agreed. It's not going, it's not coming anymore. It's here. It's here. $2 million. A tranche against further grants. This level of communication the people of Dominica has to be discontinued. The Prime Minister has to be able to go out there and speak the truth, and his ministers must be in tandem with what he's talking about. From what I can see here, Lofty, is that the country at over close to $1 billion of debt is going to borrow $141. So guess now that's going to lead me to another thing, which we'll talk about later, is the CBI program. I understand there are billions of dollars out of the country. No one has account for it, but yet you're borrowing money when there are funds left outside the country, under whose control no one knows. This kind of malaise has to stop. It cannot continue. If there are millions of billions of dollars outside the country in the hands of individuals we don't know, then you're out there creating more debt for poor people. Marie Dominica have to debt per capita moved from about 3,000 in 2000 or thereabout to about 9,000. People, the country is just accumulating debt, and you are not seeing what the debt is at. What are you doing? What are the economic growth opportunities are you creating for the country? What is it that you're doing? Zero? 3 days of pumping, partying? It's mind-boggling. This is supposed to be discontinued. And the only way it can be discontinued, Dominicans have to start taking the street and start saying we want our country back. This country the financial management is really, really not going the way it ought to be going. If not, the country like that. The low trajectory where a few people will be earning and the majority of people will be. And I get very excited about it. And my people say, please, you already, be careful what you say, you know already. I say, man, is that what I do? You got to speak the truth. Especially now that I have become an unabashed Christian and speak the truth all the time. I cannot be out here and seeing these things are happening to a country that I love so much. As I said in my working statement, that I have a love for the country. My heart has always been in Dominica. So when I'm here, I'm hearing things, I'm seeing the Prime Minister is all there making that statement, and it's not the Minister of Finance. So where is the Minister of Finance? Where is Dr. Irvin McIntyre in this whole thing? Is he home just listening, watching? Is a statement being made that is politically nice? Is it good to hear? It makes you feel good? The same nonsense took place when we were buying Domlec. It's good politically, strong. We buy Dominica. We own Dominica. Guess what happened? You know, Dominica can't afford to pay generators. You know, they haven't got the capacity to generate enough energy. Guess what happened? A few months later, the whole country in darkness. But at that time, it was politically good to say that. These things has to be continued. They have to be discontinued. And people in Dominica have to take a step back and say, listen, we got to be speaking the truth now. We got to have a new dimension. You cannot go there and say you want to borrow money from the Saudis and your wife is saying, your minister of finance saying, no, we're getting a grant and they're $2 million or $5 million EC already up and the and man, God is good all the time. All the time God is good. And people buy that nonsense. Those nonsensical words do not put money in people's pocket. It's not putting food on the table. It's doing nothing but to make one or two people wealthy and uplift a few, while the rest are struggling around, fighting hard to find ways out so that they can survive. How can you have over $4 billion of Dominica's money sitting outside the country, being expended by certain individuals without approval? You have SRO, yes. We have an SRO that give you authority to do that. The SRO went through. I understand they have been trying to get that SRO abolished so that we can start having all the funds heading into the consolidated funds. It's not doing it. And I think Dominicans are much too lackadaisical. They're sitting in the hands and they're just taking things. You cannot. The time has come when you have to stop it. I'm sorry I'm getting passionate about that, but it's something you got to be passionate about. Yeah, when you see this thing.
You have to be. You have to be. Just before Alvin comes back in, sir, I want to just have your take or get your take, as it will, on the statement itself from Melissa and Roosevelt, because there's this huge disparity in terms of the monies itself.
It is.
Melissa said 5 million EC dollars, the QET, the Saudis were deciding to put up as a benefactor. I took that to mean that they were doing that pro bono.
Yeah.
Here it is 3 months after Roosevelt comes in and says 40-something million.
But 40-something million
US dollars. What without any details, any paperwork, any schematics, any data. And you said it right. Where is the Minister of Finance in all that?
No, first of all, don't you have to have some planning approval before you get to do any type of development? Have anybody seen the planning?
And Brother Corbett, let me tell you straight up. I checked at the planning department, and nobody can tell me, Mr. Gira, yes, there is planning approval for that type of project that is supposed to be undertaken in Russia. Nobody.
So what was presented to the Saudis? What plan was presented to them so that they can go ahead and say, okay, we're going to approve? On what basis of what? And first of all, there's a confusion. We're talking about Rosso rehab, and then we're talking about Express Desire, we're talking about Theater Art, we're talking about tracking, and completely different. So there is a confusion for the loan purpose or for the funds that are being raised. What are these funds being raised for? Seriously. Is it to help the Rosso improvement? Are you going to put street lights in Rosso? Are you going to build the sidewalks in Rosso? Are you going to build up the new streets in Rosso? Is that what or are you going to use the money to put some bowling alley? Or are you going to ferry terminal? What is it that you look at? What is it that you're telling your people? How do the people really take it? How do they do that? And now you're saying to me that planning says they have no planning approval so that they can use to borrow. So I am the general manager of National Bank, and the bank comes to me and a borrower says to Mr. Corbett, I need to borrow $5 million. My first question to him is, can I see a business plan, please? Can I see it?
Correct.
You got the message?
Yep.
What was presented to the Saudis? And what plan that were those plans discussed in Parliament prior to seeking resolution to borrow? Because that has to happen. We discuss it at Parliament. Okay, fine. Now we're coming back to the House to seek authorization to borrow on the resolution. Did that happen? Of course not. You know what happened? We'll find some very flourishing, some nice words being used at Parliament and on the National Day. And Dominicans keep biting their nails, watching each other, creating enemies among themselves. God says, love one another as I love you. But no, we still here because we can't speak the truth. Speak the truth, Mr. Prime Minister. Speak the truth, madam. Call it, Irvin, where are you?
Yeah.
Tell the people.
Folks,
You're the Minister of Finance.
Yes, true. Folks, we are at the top of the hour here, 2 minutes to the hour of 7 o'clock. We're going to take that all important. Okay, I'm seeing a caller on the line here. Let's take that caller before we take that all important break. Caller, good evening to you, Civic Vibes program. Greetings.
Yeah, Lofty, good evening. Good evening to Brother Corbett and Brother Thomas and yourself. Lofty, this money, this Saudi thing was not a Dominica initiative, you know. These Saudi people were looking for influence in the United Nations for a vote. You understand? So that is how this thing came about. Well, Lisana present, all that nonsense. So that is what is going on. The Saudis are actually buying votes for a UN mission. You know? So that is what is going on. That is where that conversation. I just want to clarify that to Brother Corbett. You know, this is what is going on.
And in terms of, can you back that up in terms of much more factual information, sir?
Well,
as to how you came about that, yes.
I think the thing is called Doha or something of that nature. It's an international global event, and the Saudis in their tourism initiative and their expansion of their thing are trying to get that event to happen in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, okay.
And to get that, they need United Nations votes. So they didn't come on a mission of loans. They came on that first initial $2 million thing and whatever. It seems Roosevelt Skerritt in his hustling attitude went and go seek for some more money from them. That is why there seems to be that confusion between him and Melissa. But they were not into that loan thing. They've been going around the Caribbean and buying up governments with small grants and stuff to get them to support them at the United Nations. So that is how that Saudi thing came about.
Yeah, but Zed, if I recognize your voice, Zed, just stick on the line a bit. To me, there ought not to be that level of confusion because Melissa is in the same government that Skerritt heads. Melissa's supposed to be the wife of Roosevelt Skerritt. They're supposed to be living or sleeping in the same house. So to me, it's not another minister that is at fault here. Two people supposed to be that close to each other, and the utterances are that fine in the public. Something is amiss.
Well, them things happen because you have a non-functioning government, Lofty. There is no, as Corbett pointed out, where is the consultation? Where is the legislative process? Those things don't exist in that Labour Party government. So what you have are people who are excited to act like they're doing things. So here's Melissa in August, excitedly trying to show, well, I have gotten money. Here's Roosevelt coming out excitedly again, I have gotten more money. That is just ego business that's going on in there. And that's what you have. You have two egomaniacs running the country. You know?
Well, we're in trouble. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, man, we're in trouble.
All right, thank you very much.
This is sad. These are sad moments. Seriously. If we cannot get the truth from the senior players in the government, then who else tells the truth? Who is going to tell us the truth?
True. All right, folks, it's 7 o'clock. For those of you maybe tuning in at this time, we're talking to Brother Julius Corbett. We are discussing a very important topic as it relates to Dominica's finances. And so we're talking about basically how in these times, very struggling economy in Dominica, that the government of the day can look towards Saudi Arabia in trying to get out of Saudi Arabia a debt of 40-something plus US dollars at this time to put into, as they say, a project in a row. So the numbers to call in after the break, 615-9470 or 245-2396. Those numbers are in the live feed as well. They will also be on the screen when we take that break. So after the 7 o'clock hour break, then your calls are welcome right here on Civic Vibes. We're going to take that much needed break. We'll be back in just a bit. If you stand for the truth, prepare to stand alone, huh? As said Brother Lucky Dobby in sound. And it's the truth that we have to hear right here on this program, Civic Vibes. The whole truth and nothing but the truth as it pertains to the governance of Dominica.
Tells us the truth will set us free. But in this world I know different. Do you believe the truth? Do you believe in righteousness? Do you believe in innocence? Till proven guilty. Cause those that tell the truth are always on the wrong. Oh, then I wonder why.
For those of you who may be tuning in at this time, you're listening and watching the Civic Vibes program on YouTube and on Facebook. I have as guests this evening Brother Julius Cobbett, discussing just how Dominica, with its struggling economy, can add more debt. Number of folks tuning in at this time, good evening to you folks all over the globe. Remember the numbers to call in after that much needed break. They are 245-2396 or 615-9470. Thank you, Brother Lucky Dobby, singing a song entitled, If You Stand for the Truth, Prepare to Stand Alone. If you speak the truth, rather, prepare to stand alone sometimes. Let's get back to the live panel here as we continue on the discussion here. Brother Alvin, you have been there for a little while, listening, taking some notes. Your take, Alvin, based on what you have been hearing.
Yeah, Lofty. Very interesting, and I think our brother Corbett has touched on a number of areas. There's so much to unpack, and I subscribe to most of the comment, if not all of the comments that you've made so far in terms of where do we go from here. I heard brother Zed too comments, but I would just add that it is much more than just the Saudis wanting to have a seat.
Alvin, can you just stick a pin there? Let's take a caller, please.
Sure.
Can you do that? Yeah.
Sure.
All right, caller, good evening to you. You on to the Civic Vibe Sport. Go right ahead.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen.
Hi, good evening.
Love that I'm listening, and I'm listening, and what I note is that when the Prime Minister speaks, his wife doesn't. When the wife speaks, the Prime Minister doesn't. When Melissa spoke in Parliament and she gave the confirmation that the money was secured, there was no word from the Prime Minister. When he spoke on Independence Day, and when she did that, she spoke with some clarity and confirmation that everything was a done deal. Okay? I do not have the proof to substantiate it. The Prime Minister has not refuted what she said. Could it be possible that some money was received somewhere? However, that money is just like the CBI funds and is not in our treasury. Is that a possibility?
Well, anything is on the table. All right, my brother. Alvin.
Yes, no, I think the brother has made a very pertinent point and comment. And I will attempt to address that in some way during the conversation by referencing some information that I have. Not necessarily on where that particular money is, but in terms of how we manage our debt. But as I was saying earlier, I subscribe to most of what Brother Corbett has said. Let me just, for the benefit of our listeners, tell you that based on the Director of Audit's report ending 30th June 2020, okay, the last report that was presented was the audit ending 30th June 2021. So we haven't had one for 2022 yet. We're in 2023. I would imagine one will come out shortly, the Director of Audit's report. And in the 2020 report, they showed our debt, our national debt, as of 30th June 2019 at $1.1 billion with a B, a capital B, not a small b. And in June 30th, 2020, it was $1.4 billion. So it went up from 1.1 to 1.4. Okay. And as of 30th June 2021, it was $1.642 billion. Keep going up. I guess by the time the Director of Audit issued her report for the 30th of June 2022, we may somewhere be at 1.7 or $2 billion. Because we need to add on that 107 that we're getting from the Saudi. And Lord knows, I know last November 2022, we issued for Treasury bills in the tune of $80 million in 4 tranches of 20 million, 20 million, 20 million, 20 million, 80 million. All that is debt, okay? That's another story to be dealt with. But I think the point that Brother Corbett made is so interesting. The question of, I heard a clip earlier this week from Dwyer Astafans talking about some projects in St. Kitts. And he made the comment saying that the character of you, of the people, or what determines character is to differentiate between right and wrong. Okay? I was fortunate today during Mass, and where they speak in the first, second reading and so of wisdom. And that was what Solomon had asked for. Young king, he didn't ask for riches or anything. He said, just give him wisdom to discern right from wrong. And I think we are at this juncture in our lives in Dominica where more of us must ask for that wisdom to discern what is right, what is wrong, and to speak to what is right, and to point out what is wrong. Brother Corbett, I'm sure you listened to it, but I was able to extract from the 2021-2022 budget address to Parliament. The 2021-22 budget address to Parliament, the theme was building on our past, solidifying our present, securing our future, whatever. On page 33 of that report, the then Minister of Finance, the Honorable Prime Minister says, Mr. Speaker, the road enhancement project will continue this year. That's 21-22. With the reconstruction and enhancement of Great George Street and the Independence Street, this will include an improved drainage system, new road surface, pedestrian-friendly sidewalk, which importantly will cater to people with disability, covered drain, enhanced lighting, and the placement of utility lines underground, unquote. That was 2-3 budgets away. On page 23 of that same budget address, he says, during the fiscal year, we'll also construct a new ferry terminal on Dame Eugenia Charles Boulevard, which will include shopping, hospitality, blah, 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 blah. On and on and on. I can read the whole rest, but I won't take your time to do that. In the 2022-23 budget, on page 25 of that budget address, the road enhancement program continues this fiscal year with the reconstruction of Great George Street, which will commence by September this year. So that was in 22-23 budget. The current budget, the 23-24 budget, no mention made of the road enhancement project. And even where those projects were mentioned in the 2 previous budgets, 21-22, 22-23, and let's assume 23-24, no amounts were stated. No figure was given to say, well, Mr. Speaker, the road enhancement, whatever it is, continues. It's a project costing in the tune of $300 million or $200 million. To date, we have expended $150 million, blah, blah, blah. Nothing like that. Lofty, Dominicans have to wake up.
Yep.
We have to wake up. We are on a bus driving with the driver being drunk and sleeping at the wheel. And all of us in the bus just sit back and singing the proverbial hymn, "It is well with my soul." It is well with my soul. We have to wake up, Lofty. True. There's a lot more I will say, but let me ask Brother Corbett a question. Brother Corbett, in your experience at the both banks that you work, what would you say is a protocol? Not necessarily the bank, but in any bank, what is the protocol in terms of how one or institution, whether it's a government or wherever, manages their debt? What are some of the things they need to do, the best practices when you have debt? Even as an individual, what would you do when you have debt? Your debt is growing. What would you do to manage that debt?
First thing you probably do is for a debt management committee. And that committee would be the one to be responsible for making sure that these debts are good, they're sustainable, it is within the company's strategic planning, and it has to have board approval. So you go for a process. You go for forms, and you go for procedures. And those procedures would dictate, number one, what is the project cost going to be? What is the project cost? What are the other material? What is necessary to make sure that that process becomes viable? So you have a series of meetings being held at the junior level, the mid-man, and then at the senior level, and then to the board. So you have a step-by-step approach. That's the protocol. Somebody writes up the plan, somebody revises the plan, somebody approves it, goes to the board sits, discuss it. The board should usually form a committee within the board to review that. So you got subcommittees at every level. For example, let's say the chairman of the board, Jimmy Dimon of Chase Manhattan, he can't just go and borrow money and tell the board that he's just spent how much. No, he cannot do that. There has to be a strategic plan in place, supported by documentation, supported by vision, supported by whether or not it is within the company's strategic objectives. So if the government is going to do something like the Roseau enhancement, that should be written at a level, brought forward before the committees and then discussed, and then you seek approval. And the politicians have a way of doing that. And I have accused the civil servants, the PSs, the financial secretary, the controller of the cars. All those people are the ones who are responsible for really managing the country's debt. You tell the ministers, the government, for what is available. So we cannot allow them to go free, Alvin. That is part of the protocol, to supervise. So back to what your original question is, that the protocol is, it will be written at the level and then approved at the sub-level and then bring forward to a subcommittee or the board, who would then return to the full board for full approval. That's the process.
All right. Thank you, brother Corbett. There's a reason why I asked that question, and that's what I'm going to lead into now. But Lofty, have anyone of us ever asked the question, why did the Honorable Prime Minister give up the Ministry of Finance portfolio? It never occurred to us, why would he give it up? I mean, if you go all throughout the Caribbean, most of the prime ministers in the region, I don't know of one. If you know of one, tell me, I'll be happy to learn. Hold on to the finance portfolio. But he gave that up. Was there a reason why he might have given that up? Did that click in our mind as Dominicans? Did it ring a bell and say, but why would he? I mean, finance is a major ministry in any government. And why would the minister give that up and hand it over to Dr. McIntyre? Not even an economist or somebody like my brother Corbett there in finance. You could say, well, he has a background in finance, so therefore he's the Minister of Finance. I mean, have we ever thought of that?
Alvin, in terms of my take on that question that you posed, Dominica, Alvin, is not in a very good place as it pertains to the international community monitoring, scrutinizing, observing how things are done in Dominica. And with the sort of laser beam scrutiny that Dominica has been under for a number of years, it is not surprising, or it would not surprise me if there was this undertaking that Roosevelt Skerrit gave up the Ministry of Finance, because there's too much going on into Dominica's government, especially in that ministry. But what we are seeing this on display in Dominica, although Irving is holding the bag, but Roosevelt Skerrit is single-handedly calling the shots. And that to me is very troubling, because Brother Corbett said it clearly well earlier. Where is the Minister of Finance in all that shenanigans that is going on in Dominica, especially of the latest one with that 40-something plus US million dollars?
Well, let me just share something with you, Lofty, Brother Corbett, and our listeners, many of our listeners who are online. Earlier on, Brother Corbett just made reference when I asked the question, what are some of the best practices of the protocol in terms of how one manage a debt, whether in an individual basis, a company, or a government? And he mentioned words like sustainability. making sure that the debt is sustainable, strategic planning, board approval, project cost, among other things. There is a document, Lofty, called the Debt Management Performance Assessment. It's called the DEMPA. And that was done for Dominica and is dated August 2018. That was the last time that one was done. And it was by the World Bank Group. And what they did, they come in and they do an assessment of the country's debt and see how well their stuff is in place. And they have certain benchmarks that they use and certain, what they call, they refer to it as a debt performance index, a DPI they would give to each benchmark. And during that period, based on the observation and the work that was undertaken, Dominica had out of 28 debt performance index or indicator, whatever you want to call it. There is you can score a A if you're doing everything good, a B if you're in the middle, a C if you are, well, you meet some of it, but maybe not all of it, and a D if you fail. If you don't meet anything, you get a D. Out of 28, we got 20 Ds, 4 Cs, 1 A and 3 not available. 20 Ds. Yeah, what in the under the executive summary. Yeah, what the observations were under the executive summary. And let me just say, for purposes of our listeners as well, there's a second document that came out 2 years after from the ministry, 2020, which doesn't speak to not even half of the observation made in that other document, and pretty much just skimming over things. And in the
Alvin, before you go, I'm interested in what did we get the A in terms of those categories?
The A, we got the A in, I will tell you, debt records, completeness, and timely. That's what we got the A in. It's DPI 14. And let me tell you what DPI 14 says. Let me see if I get it for you. Hold on 1 second. Just give me a minute. I'll get it for you. I'll get it for you, Lofty. Yeah. And DPI 14 speaks of debt and debt-related records. So that is the subheading, but you have 2 dimensions. So you have dimension 1, dimension 2. Dimension 1 says completeness and timeliness of central government debt loan guarantee debt-related transactions. That's what it is, okay? And then the second dimension to that subheading is complete and up-to-date records of all holders of government securities in a secure registry system, if applicable. They got a D in that, they failed. So in terms of the first one, where they said the debt management unit maintains complete debt and loan guarantee records in the CS, DRMS, and in an Excel application.
All right. So basically, in a nutshell, Alvin, in terms of the record keeping,
it just
okay,
basically, that's what it is.
The clerks and whoever did their work excellently.
Yeah. Okay. But listen to the pointing areas. Listen to that, because that's important. You know, that is extremely important.
We have to get to some messages in just a while that keeps coming in, and some calls before we.
Well, let me read quickly for you. Under the question of governance and strategy development, it says there that however, authorization to issue bonds in regional market are not clearly defined. The legal framework is fragmented and does not include borrowing purposes.
Yeah, what I was talking about.
Yeah, they're talking about. It does not include borrowing purposes, and that's under governance and strategic development. Okay, it says there the staff capacity is developed for producing regular debt management strategy and prepare debt strategic bulletin. However, both documents have not been approved or published. You spoke about approval, where the board has to approve. Okay, It goes on to say that reasonable, reliable debt service forecasts are produced by the DMU, but in-house debt sustainability analysis is not undertaken.
That's for
That's frightening. That is extremely frightening that the government is undertaking debt and they're not doing a sustainable analysis of the debt. That is frightening. Cash flow and forecasted on a monthly basis. They talk about the cash flow. Cash flows are forecasted on a monthly basis, but not submitted to the ECCB for liquidity management purposes. Lofty, this thing is riddled.
With inefficiency.
And that is where we are today as a country.
Yeah,
we have been badly managed.
Yeah, what I'll do, Alvin, I'll give Brother Corbett his take on what you just said. He being the expert in that department. Corbett, try to now break that down for us, what Alvin noted in the report in there, so that the ordinary man could better understand.
But I think Alvin did a marvelous job to describe what happened. It means that the debt supervision has a lot of areas of weaknesses that have to be strengthened. Whenever you have a situation, you have to present the cash flow, for example. Are you going to generate enough cash to service the debt? And you bring that before the board to approve that. The board says, are you sure you could make that ready income generation? What are you going to sell? What are you going to do? How many loans are you going to book? So you have that income. Documentation. It is very important that they document it, but at least they got an A in our documentation for is it documentation or for
record keeping?
Record keeping. Yeah. Now I wanted to say something. There's a situation I know in banks and large companies where the directors of banks actually demand that management be changed if management in a company is not managing that debt properly. They have a way they can get the board to move that person out of that position.
Absolutely.
And that is what, and I presumably, based on what was coming out from the World Bank, they recognized the Prime Minister was not managing the debt properly and that he had to move.
It's pointed out, well, they can't take that policy position because all they come in as a assessment assess.
Yep.
That is where we the people come in now. We are the shareholders.
People must
say you have not been managing our affairs properly. And therefore, on the question
all
of
right,
borrowing,
folks, we have a call on the line that is waiting a little while now. Let's try and entertain that caller. Caller, good evening to you. Civic Vibes, you're on.
Okay, hi, good night.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, I have several observations about what happened on Friday, but I won't mention them because I don't think Mr. Corbett can deal with them. But I want to ask him this question because he talked about debt management. And I noticed that, I think we all note that there's an 8-year grace period on the loan and then a 28-year repayment period, so that 36 years. Now, by 8 years, let's assume that this government is out of power by then. How do you do debt management? Because I'm sure for the next 8 years, they're not going to pay anything on the debt. So how does the government that has to repay that debt do debt management when it's not in there for the first 8 years of when the debt will need to be in some way managed?
Well, you're asking.
Right, thank you very much for your question. Yes, Brother Corbett.
That's a hypothetical, really. I can't really answer. All I can do is say here is that the 8 years means that there's no principal service. All they're paying is interest. Okay. So for 8 years, all the companies making sure they pay the interest. If they are not paying the interest on time, the corporation, the lender, can call in the entire advances. Say, okay, we gave you this, you're supposed to be paying your interest, and you're not paying your interest. And you know what? The restrictive covenant on that loan is that we're going to call in the entire $41 million because you're not meeting those During that moratorium period, you're not meeting the interest payment on them. Those are very, very serious. 2.5% interest on a $41 million loan in an economy that is weak can be a lot of problems for any government to undertake right now, unless there are other sources of funds for servicing the debt, which we are unaware of.
Let me add something to your comment based on what you just said there. You're absolutely correct. But you know what's going to happen? If government cannot pay the Saudis back their 41 million US dollars, the Saudis are going to say, you know what? Dominica has a lot of water and rivers. We want that area of Dominica. We want X amount liters of water. Because you know why? Saudi Arabia is one of the countries that's experiencing the worst water crisis now in the world. And they have said, and that's for another conversation, right now, oil is not even a major thing for them. Water, to the extent where they have purchased and owned lands in Arizona, has depleted Arizona. They did it in Pakistan. And that is the point we have to make to in Dominica. These folks are selling away our sovereignty as a country. They're selling away our passports. And soon from now, they will be selling away our resource, which is our water and our land. God alone knows what is in the MOU with the Chinese. And on that note, and like you, Lofty, I'm very passionate, you know, when it comes to this thing, because it bothers me. Under that same World Bank report, it says under borrowing and related financing activities, there is no assessment of terms and conditions provided by different creditors and markets. You hear what I'm reading there for you?
Are you serious?
That's in a World Bank documents, you know. There is no consolidated external borrowing plan developed for the annual budget, including expected new borrowing. This is how these guys are operating. They're like gangsters to the country. And we sit here on the bus and have some drunk guy driving this bus and taking us down the precipice. And we sit there and singing Mia Kumba, Mia Kumba. It is good with my soul. Dominicans have to wake up. It's time we wake up. And there is a lot in this document that is frightening. It's frightening. Yeah. And they have jacked up $1.6 billion in debt.
Lofty, this is what Alvin just alluded to is very critical. What are the Saudis holding as collateral on that debt? What
Absolutely.
Are they holding? Are we aware of it? What are they holding? What security was presented to the Saudis?
That if we cannot pay, then we will present that.
Yeah. Was that presented at the House for the debate?
No, not at all.
Was there an argument on what are we offering them? Are we offering them the airport that we're building? What are we offering the Saudis? So what are securities that they're holding? What paper they're holding? How worthy is that paper that they're holding? What are the resources that we granted this? And these are the issues at hand. So when you go before Parliament, you argue a case, they're supposed to be a project costs, what collateral arrangements were made, and what security offered. All these things were supposed to be debated, not just what make a statement, a Vice statement on National Day, and come to Parliament knowing how it's going to pass anyhow. And then you walk out with 41, the country has now encumbered $41 million of debt that they're not aware how we're going to pay for it.
And feel nice good. Just feel good. It's a feel good and feel nice statement.
Yeah, folks, it is 25 minutes to the hour of 8 o'clock. We have to get out here in the next 25 minutes. Let's go to the live feed because these people are there. They're listening and also contributing to the conversation. I have a message coming in here which reads, greetings and good afternoon, my bro. I'm tuned in. I see Brother Corbett, that is Brother Julius Corbett, that is on Patriotic Fire, passionately, positively expository. We know Roosevelt has absolutely no use for democracy. Dominicans, the planning division, the minister for finance, or for the truth. The only way out of this morass of this demagoguery is to root out Roosevelt. That should be our focus. There will be no, and that no is in caps, no Roso enhancement, anything. Money laundering scam, that person says. It ends by saying, thanks for your great contribution, my brother. Keep the pressure on. We have some of our comments or persons commenting here as well on the live feed. Let me see if we can go and take some of them. Carol Olivachi Bruni writes, no one mentioned this was a balloon loan where the entire debt might possibly be due all at once. She said that there would not be any P&I paid. I think that's principal and interest paid, yes, during the 8-year grace period. My thoughts then were, what happens to the interest accrued on the loan? Songs like madness to me. That is Ms. Bruni saying that here. Alistair Irish writes, Lofty, look, I heard that Domlek, was that? Something might get her walking. Oh, Domlek GM, that is Domlek general manager might get. Well, that is speculation still, brother Irish. Let us deal with the facts when that finally come out. But thanks for your input here. Let's take a caller on the line. Caller, yes, good evening to you, the Civic Vibe Space.
Good evening, Lofty. Thank you for the job you're doing for us.
Good evening, sir.
Lofty, I'm in St. Thomas for 23 years, just around the same time Labor take power in Dominica. When I came to St. Thomas, there is 2 areas in St. Thomas they playing golf or they have for golf. You have one by the University UVI, University of the Virgin Islands, and you have one where you call on the run or Mahogany Run. Lofty, I have been treading them areas since I come to St. Thomas. And Lofty, I don't want to lie to you. Not one day I see people really practicing or any white man, any black man on those places there to really see something to say that thing is profitable, Lofty. Couple years later, they had a bowling alley in St. Thomas. Lofty, it started well, like everything else. Lofty, after a couple years, that thing shut down. St. Thomas, that's a place that I've always been. Overnight tourism. Lofty, in Dominica, we could not even get Windsor Park. We've had test cricket. That's our game. To fully pack, only time the park can full with people, or even choir festival is for scary to pay people to come out overseas or give them free tickets. Lofty, you mean to tell me you go in for $41 million to invest in those kind of things? Where you have teachers, nurses, the hospital. Why we not investing in the hospital that people can come out overseas and utilize the hospital to bring foreign investment?
That's fantastic.
Lofty, all this is corruption. There is no tendering. There is no estimation to bring to the people. Terry just taking money and think what he wants to the people and all the rest for he and America. It's corruption. God bless Dominica. Thank you.
All right, my brother. God bless you as well for your comments here. Let me just read another comment before I get back to you. And Alvin says, Rani Felix is writing here, Lofty, the PM is not trained in finance. And so he moved from that portfolio. However, he replaced himself with another non-finance person that is in the name of Dr. Irvin McIntyre, completely disregarding the finance-trained man, that is Fidel Grant. We have square pegs in wrong holes. He says, the medical man is in finance, the engineer is in health, and the finance man, Lord have mercy. Brother Rani, it is true, but sometimes you have to make light of those things. Let me just read that again. We have square pegs in wrong hole. The medical man is in finance, the engineer is in health, and the finance man grant is in some other ministry. Corbett.
Lofty, I just want to refer to a comment by one of your contributors about the interest. If the interest is not clear, it is capitalized. That means it's added to the original loan, and keeps on, and that can become, so when it becomes too big, so they can keep on adding to it, and then they call in the entire advances, which includes the interest and all interest that has been accumulated over the time that has not been paid. That is danger. That is danger.
Yeah.
But let me also add, Lofty.
Let's get back to some. Let's stick to some comments, Alvin, because we are running out of time. I know you have much to say, but then people here, they're here with us too. Any comments that you see in there that is worth mentioning?
Well,
because they are speaking to us through their comments.
I see them. I would love to see a lot more of the comments in terms of what action we can take. That's where we have to be now, Okay. I mean, in terms of what we are sharing, I'm reading the comments, and they're good comments, don't get me wrong, but I think we're at the point now where we have to take action, Lofty. We are in a very precarious position. Lofty, we on the edge of the cliff. And if we don't stop that guy who's driving that bus down the cliff, we're all going to go over the cliff. So we need to take some action now. That's what I'm calling on. That's what I'm advocating now. So yes, the comments are good, because and the action we take is based on what obtains now. I'm not reading stuff, fancy stuff, or just pulling stuff at the top of my head, Lofty. That is not stuff I'm pulling at the top of my head. That is the World Bank came in to do an assessment. And from the assessment, they're saying what they discovered. Okay. It is frightening. And that is where Dominicans should be on the street and asking for accountability and transparency.
So just maybe, Alvin, we can maybe spend a special program on that, because there's much food for thought in there.
Absolutely. I mean, when you, for example, I really don't mean to cut you off, but the Saudis, we've just gone ahead and do a $41 million loan. Okay, it's signed, sealed, and delivered. The joint IMF World Bank debt sustainable analysis, what Corbett referred to earlier, because you have to do a sustainability analysis. You have to analyze your debt. Concluded in 2017, notes the increasing debt level and classified Dominica at high risk of internal debt stress. That's how they classify Dominica, high risk. So the Saudis know that. I'm sure the Saudis did their due diligence and found out that Dominica is a high risk. But even being a high risk, they went ahead and gave us $41 million. What are we giving back in return? Apart from just paying that debt. The analysis indicates ambitious fiscal consolidation needs to be implemented to set public and external debt on sustainable path. The outlook of debt sustainability is subject to risk of failure to advance with the fiscal consolidation, unexpected drop in revenue, and further weakening of donor grants, as well as natural disaster. That brings us to the CBI, which we can discuss another matter, because even in the 23-24 budget, very little is said about the CBI. Nada. So which means to say, unlike the two previous years, where it accounted for something like 58% of our revenue, considered as a non-tax revenue, and 38% respectively. In the 23-24 budget, there was no mention made. And that is another observation that this report makes, that government do not being transparent and presenting the budget as is required what debt we are borrowing. You saw it happen. The Prime Minister's wife went into wherever she went, made her big comment. He went on radio on Independence Day, and then subsequent to that, he went in Parliament and put a $107 million debt on the back of Dominicans. That needs to enrage all of us. We need to be enraged at that.
All right, Alvin, thank you very much for your passion here. Brother Corbett, anything you want to add based on what?
Yeah, I just want to underscore what Alvin just said. there's also the implication about the granting agencies, because if the donor agencies are seeing that these monies that they're giving as grants for economic development are being used to service someone's debt, that then creates a problem for Dominica's ability to get additional grants. So they got to be very careful about how they manage this, even the grants they receive.
Yeah, indeed. All right. We have like what, 10 more minutes to bring the program down to a wrap. So we're going to take some comments here and go back to the table, as it were, to have you guys final comments in just a bit. We have a comment here from Gerald Vital. He says, if we as a nation don't see and realize what's happening and going down, well, we will all have a serious fight to salvage Dominica. Brother John Blanchard also writes here, can someone explain to me how a government that has been in office for over 23 years has collected the most revenue in passport sales, most revenue in VAT revenue, and other government revenues? As a matter of fact, there was no VAT on the Freedom Party and on the UWP. VAT was introduced, he says, under the Labour Party. This government also received the most revenue from donor countries by their own admission. So Brother John is asking just, for somebody to explain as to a government receiving most monies throughout all the other governments that passed, and yet our country is in that state. He also continues here, Brother John says, yet our national debt has tripled to $1.6 billion. Our debt to GDP is 104%, well over, he says, the acceptable 60% standard. The answer is that of bad management, abuse of state resources, wastage, and an oversized cabinet who don't have a clue as how to run the country. Omar Monel, right? Thank you, Brother John, for your comments here. Omar Monel is writing here. In other words, Dominica is broke. Twau Williams, right? Make it make sense. You have billions of dollars in passport sales, yet your PM is obtaining a loan of 41 million US dollars. Carla Fontaine writes, what hurts too? The same government which is sending Dominica into debt is telling me I must pray for Dominica. Jean-Francois, writes, yes, Dominica is broke and broken. I can't be paid for my property for the world's biggest international airport. So I guess that is somebody in the Wesley area that hasn't gotten paid as yet. Karen Joseph.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Alvin, read Karen's
Karen Joseph is reading. I have been sitting here all night just listening. I can't even comment. It is painful. I usually comment, but sometimes you just have to listen. When will our people rise up? We are in a dangerous and precarious situation. If now is not the time, when will it be? Every week, something else is dug out of the dark grave and is piling up. When, my people, when? We have been focusing on debt to the Chinese, but focusing on debt to the Chinese. But just 2 weeks ago, in conversation with a Grenadian, I was told quite bluntly that the Chinese are not the ones who Dominica or the rest of the Caribbean needs to look at. It's the Arabs, specifically the Saudis. Now, here it is right before my eyes. And she's right.
Yes, indeed.
She's absolutely right on that one.
Veronica Pascal writes, most Dominicans are satisfied with their condition as is. If they were not, then they would take a stand up to show. All right. Brother Peter Carbon is watching as well. And a number of folks, they are watching and also commenting real here. Lafoy Julian writes, really? History will show when the money started to fall and Irving came in. Margel Duran writes, Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica, St. Vincent have different people. I think Antigua as well. He also added Guyana in the loop here. I'm seeing a comment here from Brother Ron Joseph. Brother Ron Joseph, I choose not to read your comment because your comment is not a comment or the views that Civic Vibes will want to expose or express. And so we will not be taking any we will not be taking any fault for your comments here in terms of your very, very harsh and bordering on incitement here. All right. So Civic Vibes will not be taking any responsibility. That's the word I want to use here in terms of your comment. But thank you for listening to the conversation nonetheless. And so we respect your view nonetheless. All right. Gerald Vital says debt trap diplomacy. Ezra Winston says, okay, brother Alvin, you talk about the Saudis asking for repayment. What about the Chinaman? All right. We also have the Chinaman, the Chinese in Dominica.
He's absolutely right. Yeah, yes. Because I raised the question, do we know what's in the MOU? Do we know what we have sold?
Yeah. All right, Brother Corbett, we have to sort of bring it to a wrap. I know there's much more in the tank where you're concerned, you could say, but, like everything in life, all good things must come to an end.
Lofty, I just want to say thank you very much for the opportunity to speak out to my fellow Dominicans, give my views. My views are just my views, I made suggestion. I believe that we are at a crossroad right now where we do have to realize that the country is growing in debt. This debt is not going to be sustainable unless there is going to be sufficient income to support that debt. We also know, as I said before, all debts are not bad. Some debts, if the debt is used for the purpose of generating income, and this income is used to service the debt, then, for example, in Japan, I think Japanese have one of the highest GDP, 242 debt GDP. But guess what? Massive amount of cash in the country. They can use it at any time. We don't have that. It seems to me right now that for the past how many years now, our finances are being mismanaged and with no accountability. And I have argued before, and I'll say it right here, that the minister, that the PSs, the controller, the financial secretary, the budget director, all these persons are supposed to be out there helping the country government to manage this debt, and they cannot get away free. But the situation now for Dominica is bleak. And what makes it even more bleak is that when you have people within the government, within the party, saying different things, it sends a mixed message to the community. Are we borrowing money from the Saudis, or are we getting a grant from the Saudis? If we are borrowing money from the Saudis, what have we offered them? What are they holding to as security on that debt? If it's a grant, what are the grant funds going to be used for? Have these grant funds been recognized in the consolidated funds? Who is disbursing those funds? We need to have control procedures in place to ensure that the country's finances are being recognized, that they're planned for, and there is a lot of supervision over this debt. If not, it's going to be run by Kifai. And one writer did say a while ago that Dominicans are very happy for things. How can you be happy in a situation where you're not better off now than you were 5 years ago? You're not better off now than you were 20 years ago. In fact, you're worse off because there's a flight of capital in terms of money leaving the country like crazy. And then the people, the human resources are now leaving the country. So what are we doing? What are we offering the people? Then you take an oath to defend and secure the countries, the citizens of the country. That's not good news. And the Dominicans must wake up and be honest with themselves. St. Lucia has gone ahead of us. Everybody leaving us behind. We're just behind. We were followers. That's not who we are. We used to be the bread basket of the Caribbean at one time, from what I know. Today we're buying more Kentucky Fried Chicken and all kind of foreign. Now I understand the kids back home can't even they don't even want to eat their local foods. I listen to to my nephew a few days ago, saying, "Well, eat what you grow. Make sure." Trying to become there, but there's nothing growing. What is growing? A few things. Haitians come around and then they're leaving, and the agriculture of main export is not happening. Tourism is virtually flat, but a few. In fact, from what I know, most of the people in the tourist business right now, they're more in this passport sales business. They're more in trying to get economic citizenship, as opposed to, so these are the issues of major concern. The people must rise up. The people must rise up.
Well, I heard that phrase a lot tonight, and you last expressed it here. Thank you very much. The people must rise up. Brother Corbett, on behalf of the Civic Vibes team and the thousands listening and viewing at this time, we want to express our sincere gratitude to you for taking time off your schedule, sir, and just coming and sort of impart some education to us.
Thank you.
And so that is pro bono work from a professional standpoint. We want to thank you very much, and let us leave that, sort of communication line open, and I know the people will be really, really willing to have you some other time.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. Bless up. Enjoy the rest of the evening, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Alvin, your final comments, sir?
Well, Lofty, it is my hope, as I've said from the start of the program, and I will say in concluding, that the information we share is not just to give you the information. We provide the information, both myself and Brother Corbett, so that those of us who are in a position to take action can take action. Okay? There's a lot more I'd like to refer in that document, but time does not permit for it. But I'm telling you, that is a document that is worth review. Okay? It is mind-boggling to the extent where the government in office now are flouting the laws of the country, of the land. I think Brother Darius have made that several times on calling on Matt's program. And there are matters that, as it relates to our debt, that should, and our securities and all of that, based on the Bond and Securities Act, Chapter 6404 of the laws of Dominica, that is not being observed. Matters that should go to the parliament is not going to the parliament. Matters that external borrowing is not happening. We just celebrated 45 years of quote unquote independent, but we are more dependent than independent. And right now, the agenda seems to be an agenda of the Asians, Chinese, and now the Arabs in the persons of the Saudi Arabia. And those foreign influences do nothing more than keep us Dominicans and our Kalinago brothers and sisters in poverty for the rest of our lives. And therefore, it is time that we wake up and take some action. The Saudis are not making that monies available. The Saudis right now is sitting on almost $1.2 or $3 trillion in public investment funds, okay? So money is not a problem for them. But what they will do, they will come in our little land, Dominica, and seize up and take everything. So my faith tonight is for us to take action.
Doing it for love of country's life.
See what is right.
First in the Caribbean is life. We never get no debt, forgiveness is lie. Speak the truth. Speak the truth. No one asks you to lie, yet you do. Speak the truth. Speak the truth. Maybe what's in the heart is coming out for truth. The spell that is on this country will be taken out eventually. The voice of the people is the voice of God. Not afraid of the liar. Raise your voice higher and say with me, liar, liar. Fans on fire, take credit in time of disaster. Only one set getting what they share. Liar, liar. Fans on fire.
All right, Dominicans, that is it. All friends alike across the globe and in the region listening and watching, thank you very, very much indeed. That's it.
Thank you.
Special thank you as well to a special invited guest for tonight's program, Brother Julius Cobbett.
Promising season has come and gone. summer cool out, zero and rum. Now people falling, cash stop flowing. Once again, with outstretched arms. But we know a liar is a thief. Billions missing and no trace of it. After 3 years of doing nothing, you want a new mandate to promise more things. Like international airport is lying.
All right, Dominicans, for all of you still locked in, a pleasant good evening to you all. Thanks for your eyes and ears each and every time.
Anything you hear from
to the Civic Vibes team, thank you very, very much to you guys as well for making it happen every Sunday.
No one asks you to lie, yes you do. Speak.
Brother Checo, Abel John Baptist, having us out on this one. Speak the truth, he calls this one.
This spell that is on this country will be taken out eventually. The voice of the people is the voice of God. How we people tell the partner, why don't come hearing your mother? Liar, liar. Pants on fire. Ukiye munba we got a wasa 12 point orange in ya. Liar, liar. Pants on fire.
So that's it, Dominicans. Thank you very, very much indeed. See you next week, same time, same place on the Civic Vibe Space at 6 o'clock. Have a very good week ahead.
Every man has told a lie. Let it be your modus operandi. You can fool some people, but not we the people. That's not under your evil spell. But we know a liar is a thief. If you but take most of it, after their tenor, they will be rich. You'll still be begging the new candidate. No one will abandon Posse's life. Medical school on its way is life. Not living in my own house is life. COVID from the economy is life, life, life. Speak the truth. Speak the truth. No one asks you to lie, yet you do. Speak the truth. Talk to my test. Speak the truth. What's my heart is coming out for true. This spell that is on this country will be taken out eventually. The voice of the people is the voice of God. A desperate coward partner when crying, my brother, my brother. Liar, liar. Pants on fire. Crocodile tears like an actor, saying they love Dominica. Liar, liar. Pants on fire.